Hi, Mr. C here in Monticello High School Woods Lab. I just want to talk to you today for a couple minutes about some of the different types of cutting tools that you're going to use when you use the CNC router. You got to know something about these cutting tools and how they're going to help give you the look in the wood, especially if you're doing a logo or some other type of vector art file that you're wanting to carve into your actual project. So the most common cutting tool that you're probably going to use, especially just to kind of trace out a logo or some other type of image, is what we call a V-groove bit. And I've got a couple of different styles here. So here's one. We've got this that's a 2 flute. We've got this 3 flute, and that's important language to remember. 2 flutes or 3 flutes. You might even have a single flute cutter. And these come in different degrees. I believe all 3 of these are a 60-degree carbide angle, but you'll notice there's some differences here too. So let's just talk about the actual tool itself. So you've got the parts of this. You have the shank and you have the tip, so as well as the flute. Now on your V-groove, the flute doesn't quite, you don't see it quite as much. Here you'll notice this part right in here that's cut. That's called the flute, and of course the purpose of that flute is for chip extraction, so the chip gets away from the cut edge. So, and it's very important to be able to utilize that. Now, shanks on these router bits come in 2 sizes. This is a 1/4 inch shank, this is a 1/2 inch shank. So depending on what you're doing, obviously the 1/2 inch shank is a stronger shank and capable of handling heavier cuts, doing a little bit heavier duty work. Your 1/4 inch, you're going to take lighter passes and lighter cuts because they're going to be more prone to bend. So keep that in mind when you choose it. Now, both of those, of course, you're going to go into some type of a collet system, whatever CNC router you're using. These are what's commonly referred to as an ER25 type collet and a collet nut. So notice there's a 1/4 inch hole here for your 1/4 inch shank to go in there. So, and you just kind of press it in. You want to insert it as far as you can, but don't bottom out on the seat. So you also have your choice of the 1/2 inch collet. And same thing, you want to push it in and don't bottom that out in the cool. Now when these go up into the actual machine tool, into the spindle, when you lock that down, that double angle that's on there on the collet, as you tighten that nut, it compresses on the collet and allows that to shrink and tighten down onto your actual cutting tool. So that is your what we call the V-groove. Other types, the other most common is what we call a straight router bit. So here's a couple of selections of our straight cutter, straight router bit. Now you'll notice here we have a couple of 2 flutes. These are 1/2 inch shanks. Here we have what's referred to as a 2 flute as well. But here these are straight spirals, or straight flutes, and this is what is referred to as a spiral flute. And there's different reasons, and you can have this spiral down or spiral up. Some of that is to help pull the chip up and away. Other times helps to keep your cutting forces going down into it. You'll also notice that we've got a variety of different sizes that you can choose from the straight. And when you're doing different pocketing routines or even profiling, you want to make sure that you kind of select the right diameter of cutter as well as the right type of flute when you're going for certain applications. And you'll learn more about those different applications as you go and as you apply these cutting tools and you see what works and what doesn't work. But it's important, and we can get these straight end mills, or what's referred to as these straight router bits, anywhere from 1/8 of an inch all the way up to really 3/4 of an inch. We can even go with what's more like a common, like a fly cutter, something that's a lot larger as well. This usually isn't used for cutting. We just kind of clean top what we face milling with something like that. So those are our straight end mills, or router bits. And then of course the other type and style that we have is what we refer to as a ball nose end mill or ball nose router bit. These have a full radius on the bottom, so and notice you got like a 1/8 radius, moving up into 1/4 of an inch. You can get a 1/2 inch. You can get anything as long, and you can buy these in all sorts of different sizes and lengths. And of course, your tool length is going to be important because that's how deep you can actually go into a part. You know, in general, you want to try to keep your tools, your cutting tools, as short as possible and as rigid as possible. But at the same time, you know, if you've got a really large pocket that you're trying to clean out, you want to get a largest diameter router bit that you can. You don't want to necessarily spend a whole lot of time with like a small diameter router bit trying to machine out and route out a huge pocket routine. So, and of course the advantage to these, your ball nose, as opposed to something like this with your straight, in that pocketing routine, this of course is going to give you a 90-degree corner. Your ball nose is going to give you that radius down at the bottom, which typically radiuses give you much better strength, helps to keep things from cracking or breaking better than a 90-degree. So that's just a real quick video, just a little snippet on some different types of router bits that you can buy. They come in a couple of different grades. You can buy high-speed steel, you can buy carbide. Carbide generally holds up a lot longer, but it's also a little bit more brittle, so it might shatter on you if you're getting a lot of vibration when you're machining and cutting in your wood. And of course, if you crash any of these, they're going to be likely to chip and break out and damage the machine, your workpiece, and probably break the tool. So you always want to pay attention to what you're doing. Select the right type that goes with the different job that you're using, and you always have success using different types of cutting tools on the CNC router. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.